I know.
Shut my phone off.
And we are live.
Great.
And so, just a note for anyone who decides that they want to go live as a guest. Please remember to turn off
your notifications,
or just turn off your phone. Period. So, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. My name is Anthony Tsavelos, and this is the second episode of Bowtie Certified. And today we have a special guest, Rob Stewart. Hello, Rob.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Anthony.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So Rob and I met on a Slack community called Tech Study Slack, and I'll be posting it later in the banner below. But Rob and I met through the Slack community, and he happened to be we happened to have a mutual friend named Adrian Cantrell. And so we started doing a little bit of chatting, and, you know, I was so taken back by his story, you know, being an MBA, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Rob, but going from, you know, one industry to another, it fascinates me every time, and this is why I asked him to come on to be a guest. So, Rob, tell us. Tell us your story, your journey into the tech industry, and what made you decide that this was your path.
So, I've had a lot of opportunities in my life, and a lot of them were created by my dad. He, when computers were not that common, were just starting to become common, he was kind enough to get us a computer. And, you know, just like any kid who gets a computer, the first thing you want to figure out how to do is how to play games on it. I mean, that's what I did. And this was back when the first one, it was a Dell computer, but it was a Dell computer before they were called Dell computers. It was actually called a PCs Limited computer with 8 megahertz, with an 8 megahertz 286 chip is. And I know I'm dating myself, but that was a long time ago. And it had this fantastic, fancy new thing that we got for it called a mouse with a button that you would click. And we spent hours just drawing on the Paint program. So that's how I kind of got started. And then, you know, back when everybody was typing up their papers, we could use the word processor on the computer to do that. And so I started learning about that. And then Windows started to become popular when I started school. And so I learned how to do graphic design on a computer. And I did a presentation from one of my professors in class, and she liked it. And she recommended me for a job at the school doing graphic design work for professors. And so that was really my first one of my first formal experiences, if you could call it that, and built some relationships at school. And right before I finished my undergraduate degree, I moved to El Paso, Texas for the summer and worked with my uncle and my cousin. He had this grand vision of creating printing software for printing shops, and we were going to use Microsoft Access to build a printing estimator. So I spent the summer writing really, really bad Visual Basic for applications code in Microsoft Access. Oh, it was so bad. But anyway.
Don't we all write bad code at first, though?
I still do. No. But anyway, I guess I shouldn't say that, right? But so after my summer was over, I went to my last year at Baylor, and as part of being at a school like that, you have opportunities to interview, but my plan was to go back and work with my uncle and my cousin after that. That didn't work out. And so about April of my last year of school, I was talking to one of my professors, and I said, hey, what am I going to do? I missed all these opportunities to interview with these companies. He said, why don't you stay around here and work with us? We have this project to redesign the business school website in this newfangled technology called Microsoft Active Server Pages. And it was Visual Basic for, you know, it was a VB script at the time. Yes. So I took that opportunity and worked with the company over the summer. We rebuilt the website. We designed it as a data-driven website, so all the professors could go in and update their profiles and do all that kind of stuff. And this was quite a long time ago. So,
what year was that?
I believe that was in
In the
1997.
Okay. In the 90s.
In the 90s. Yes.
Did you know anything about building websites at the time?
I didn't really. I mean, I had some basic HTML knowledge, and this was, JavaScript was just JavaScript was just starting to become popular. So, figuring out how to put a little JavaScript code on your web page to make a button pop out, that's what everybody was doing, and that was considered fancy stuff. So, but back at that time, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't videos online you could go to watch, learn something. You would get a book. In this particular case, I got a book from Rocks, I believe at the time, on active server pages. It was kind of the Bible for people writing active server pages at the time, and I read through it and I studied every page and learned how to do ADO, DB connection strings and all that good stuff that you had to do active server pages back at that time. It was a lot of fun, and I worked for hours and hours trying to learn how to do this. And
wow,
boy, I did not know what I was doing. I mean,
So here's a great question: is that coming from school where you were learning, business? Did you actually understand what you were reading when it came to, putting all this technology together?
So there definitely was a learning curve. I did have some. I had the degree I had at Baylor was a business degree with an information systems emphasis. So I did have some courses that were computer related. So it wasn't completely a foreign language to me.
Okay.
But there was a lot to absorb and learn, because you have to really think differently about how you design websites because of how they work. It's like, they've changed a lot since then, because people are writing things with JavaScript and they do a lot more work on the client. But back then, we were just sending HTML over and then waiting for a response back. It's a lot different. It was a lot different than it is now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that you were doing back then have now been abstracted.
Oh, of course, it's so much different now. It's amazing. That was a long time ago.
So you didn't really have a strategy to break into the industry. You just kind of fell. It was a happenstance.
Right. It was just something I always enjoyed. Computers were something I always enjoyed. I was one of those who would help my buddies in the dorm try to get things working on their computers, or explained how things worked. And what I really enjoyed was being kind of the person in the middle, the glue, who would help technical and non-technical people communicate. That was always a fun part of what I was able to do, because I could understand certain aspects of the technology, and then I would be able to explain that to people who maybe didn't understand it as well as I did. And I've always had opportunities to do that, and that was always a lot of fun.
Nice. Very nice. So it was kind of like, I guess how, who is it? Sean from Napster. He was like, one of the dorm room guys. Same thing with, Mark Zuckerberg. So,
they've done a little better than I have, but
but
maybe.
You hear similar stories all the time.
Right. Sure.
All started in the dorm room.
Everybody starts somewhere.
And
people are starting. There's somebody out there, I'm sure, in a dorm room or in a basement who's developing something that's amazing. I've heard so many stories. The people who have started Instagram or Twitter or whatever, these guys were self-taught. They learned how to do certain things with technology, and they made a business out of it, and they did very well. It's incredible what people are able to do.
So this job with your university, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that was your first tech job.
It was. I was the quote unquote webmaster for the business school when I was getting my degree. So I had the opportunity to do some hands-on things, to worry about the server crashing overnight and all those kinds of good things while I was going to school. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm sure you had a lot of late night wake up calls.
Had a few, maybe not too many, but a few.
You haven't really earned your stripes in tech until you've been woken up in the middle of the night to fix some sort of problem that that inherently you can't fix at that time because you're just so like out of it.
What? Exactly.
What happened?
Who's this? Yes, that's very true.
So so tell us, how did you get to where you're at now?
So as I was finishing up at Baylor, one of the professors I met at school had said to me, "Hey, Rob, I met this great company at a learning conference. They're called Viewpoint. They're out in Roslyn, New York. I'd never been to New York before." He said, "Why don't you consider interviewing with this company and giving it a shot?" So I interviewed with them, and they made me a job offer. And I figured, I'm young. I've just finished school. I don't have much to lose. This is a great opportunity for me. So I moved out to New York, which I'd never been to before. And for somebody who grew up in New Mexico and Texas, it's a very different world in New York. It's kind of a culture shock a little bit when I first got there, but I worked with some wonderful people who helped me out a lot, who taught me a lot of things. I started out more on the infrastructure side of things in IT, and the company I went to work for created what was then a learning content management system, even though it wasn't called that yet. And they used the software to help companies train people on their proprietary knowledge. So it was an exciting opportunity for me. Had a lot of opportunities to work with companies in a lot of different industries, insurance and healthcare, and a lot of other things in my tenure. So I started out in IT, and I stayed with that company. That company was eventually acquired in 2013. And so I just grew and had additional opportunities to learn new things, and eventually sort of straddled the IT infrastructure and development side of the house, and had great opportunities to wear a lot of different hats in my career, which was a wonderful opportunity to work with our sales team to fill out RFPs and answer technical questions about, does the software do this? Does the software do that? Going on demos and answering questions from customers firsthand. Those kinds of opportunities were wonderful. And the chance to dive in on the deep end of the technology side to make sure we had an infrastructure that could support our customers and expand it and add new capabilities to the software. It was great. So I enjoyed all those experiences. It was such a blessing to have those opportunities.
That's awesome. And so when did you know that, when you started into the tech industry, when did you know that this was the path that you wanted to stay on, as opposed to going more down the business path?
So I guess because I enjoyed it so much, the technology part of it was just so much fun for me that I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the change. I mean, it's interesting how new technologies and new things come out all the time. You have to stay current with what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so that challenge of it was very interesting to me. When I first started my undergrad career, my thought was that when I finished school, I was going to go back and work with my dad. And then I had these opportunities and took the next step that was offered to me along the way. And my career ended up a lot different than what I expected. My dad's actually in the funeral business. So,
oh, wow. So not even tech, not business. That's crazy.
But what's interesting is that where we are today, if you'll notice, every single business is now a technology business.
Yes.
And I mean, it really is. I mean, every single company requires data and systems in order to operate. So
even coffee shops.
What's that?
I said even coffee shops.
Even coffee shops. Well, I mean, sure. even Anthony's coffee shop.
For those of you who are in Toronto, I do have a very nice coffee machine, and I tend to have my own coffee shop.
And Anthony sent me a coffee by drone. I'm still waiting for it, by the way. But anyway,
I have to check up on that. Deliveries are quite slow today. I don't know what's up with that.
So every business now is a technology business, which makes an exciting opportunity for people getting into tech these days, because everybody needs people who understand technology. And that's very different than it was 30 years ago, or further along than 30 years ago. I mean, it's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. So tell me more about certifications, because as for those of you who do know me, I'm known for having a lot of cloud certifications, and I've told my story many times, and have proven that certifications actually get you in the door to get that better role that you're looking for, and to help you learn so you can get a better job and have a better life for you and your family. So, Rob, how did getting certifications help you?
So a couple of years back, the company that I was working for made a big, huge bet on Amazon Web Services. And I was managing a team that was developing a learning management system for the company I was working for. And so we had to learn more about cloud, and had some opportunities to do some hands-on things and learn a little bit about AWS. But recently, needing to make a career change, I took the opportunity to challenge myself and take some of those AWS certifications, so that I could prove to myself and prove to, or at least show evidence that I knew what I was talking about when I was talking about cloud. And it was an exciting opportunity for me. And I think there's a couple of advantages. I don't think that you can necessarily just get a certification and expect anybody is going to hand you a great job on day one. It's important. It is an important piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
And it very much helps you. It creates opportunities for you. But having a chance to work with the technology hands-on is also important. And the goal should not be just to earn the certification. It's great. It's a great way to have a milestone and to say, I am going to learn this technology. I'm going to master it so that I can take this certification and demonstrate mastery of this subject matter. That's really great. And I think that's a wonderful thing that certifications do. At least that's what they did for me. They gave me a step along the path. So I said, well, I need to learn how to do this better, and I need to master these concepts. So let me target one of these certifications. So I started studying, and I said, let me set an objective of taking this test and taking the certification to see if I can do it. And so when you do that, you take the opportunity to learn, and not just to study the theory, but to do the hands-on while you're doing the theory, which is just as important, because it's one thing to be able to answer questions on a test and demonstrate that mastery, but you really need to understand how the different pieces fit together. And these technologies are like, it's like having a huge toy box full of all these Legos that you can assemble to build something amazing. And if you understand how the pieces fit together, you can create some amazing things. And it's mind-blowing. It's like, wow, there's so much available to you here. And it really changes the way you think about how you design and construct systems. So when you do the hands-on and master the information and you take the test, it gives you confidence to say, I do understand what I'm talking about when I talk about these things. Now, technology is not a destination. Technology is a journey. So there are so many things that you could probably ask me, and I would say, I don't know. But if you can demonstrate that you can learn it, then you have opportunities to always grow. I mean, I finished up taking an AWS certification, and now I'm learning how to do Python better and taking a Python course. You never stop learning. And that's an important thing. It's like, and it becomes addictive once you start it. And that's what I experienced when I was going through and taking those certifications. Once you start on that journey, it's like we were talking about Adrian Cantrell. I was going through one of his labs on, I think, a Sunday night at like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, I would rather be going through this and learning about this than watching some movie or something. This is so much fun. And it can be a lot of fun to do these things. Now, maybe I'm just kind of a geek, but I really had a lot of fun doing that.
No, it's true. I mean, you get into this learning mindset over time, and it's true. It does become addictive, and it becomes fun because you're learning something new. You're applying yourself to something you've never done before, and it's like, hey, I can do this. And so when you get the certification, it's like the cherry on the sundae.
Yeah. Exactly. So and again, it's all about the journey. I mean, challenge yourself. If you've never done this before, pick a certification and go after it. Get the right materials together and do it. It's very rewarding. I found it to be very rewarding, and it does open doors for you. Now, again, it's an important part of the puzzle. So, there are people out there who take one certification like, okay, who's going to pay me now? I mean, it doesn't work like that. Maybe that's harsh, but
thank you. There's a lot of people who think that because you get a certification, it automatically entitles you to get a great job. And that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
How it works is the certifications get you through the door. They get you in the room to have the interview so that you can showcase your talent, your skills. And, I've the first time I got a certification, I was of the same mindset. But then I started to realize that it's so much more than that. And so the more certifications I got, I took the time to go on that journey and really learn what it is that the certification is trying to allow me to do better, right? So,
and there are other aspects that are important too when you're working on a career in technology besides just the technology. In other words, learning how to interact with other people, how to write clear communication, how to speak correctly, and how to be helpful to other people and make yourself so that people want to work with you is very important too. Learning how to be somebody who encourages people and says and comes alongside people and says, you can do this, and helps other people on their journey too is really important.
Yes. So, I find that in the tech industry, there's a lot of people lacking in that, and it's due to a lot of people in tech. Let's be honest here, they're introverts, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. But there comes a point in time where you do have to communicate, and if you can communicate well and talk about what's on your mind, the things that you have in store, what you see the future of whatever company you're working at or with your career, talking to a manager. These are the things that people need to talk about. And as well, there's a lot of people who do have the skill set in technology to be able to talk to others, and this is where encouragement comes in big time, and and help. I find that even though technology can sometimes be overwhelming, there's so many people out there that are willing to help others. And I think that's such a fantastic thing. And I really think that we should really celebrate that.
Right. There are even people out there who create courses on Google Cloud to help people learn Google Cloud, which is a wonderful thing.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, I do have a shameless plug. I do have a course out in pre-release for the Associate Cloud Engineer certification for Google Cloud. And it's not just about the certification for me. I want people to actually learn. And I go from a mindset of when I was a fashion designer and I didn't have the technical background. So I come from that mindset of, hey, you know what? I'm switching careers into something I know absolutely nothing about. And so that's where I come from. And I'm done.
And you could tell he's very fashionable. I mean, look at the bow tie. I mean, it looks fantastic. But the other thing to keep in mind about technology is a lot of times technology people get very excited about technology for technology's sake. Oh, wow, look at these great new Legos I have to play with. This is fantastic. I couldn't do this before.
Let's Kubernetes all the things.
Yeah, everything must be Kubernetes now. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. An important thing to keep in mind about that aspect of things is the technology needs to serve the business and ultimately needs to serve a customer. So somebody says, well, what kind of new technology are you going to use to build applications? Well, it really depends. You can't just say, oh, well, because Amazon or Google or Microsoft or somebody just released this great new thing, we need to stop everything else we're doing and adopt this new technology. Now, we certainly need to stay up to speed with Kubernetes and Terraform and all these other serverless, all these wonderful new technologies that are coming out that enable you to do wonderful things you couldn't do and before. But the technology has to ultimately serve a customer. There's a reason that technology exists. It doesn't exist just so we could say, hey, we built this great new Kubernetes cluster that had all this wonderful stuff. And I'm not a Kubernetes person, so I couldn't throw out all the buzzwords associated with Kubernetes, but it's fantastic technology, but it needs to serve a purpose. So anyway,
right.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, I mean, it's the truth. If it doesn't serve a purpose, then, why are you trying to do it? Why are you trying to push it? There is a technology there are technologies that are specific to your environment or to the problem that you're trying to solve. And so it's not a one size fits all. It's, there's many different ways to get from point A to point B. So for those of you who are in tech, don't always look at, one size fits all, because that's not the case. And we have a question from Dixon Victor to you, Rob.
Okay.
Dixon is asking, what advice do you have for a newbie in tech?
So I guess my advice would go along with trying to figure out what niche you have. A great way to do this is to go after one of these certifications that we've talked about. And cloud is a huge area of tech right now. Between what Amazon's doing and what Microsoft is doing, there are a lot of opportunities in tech. And that would be a great place to start. There are other things in technology that are very interesting, like data science and all those kinds of things. And I'm the last person to say that somebody should just jump into tech just purely for financial reasons. There are a lot of people who get into careers that they just don't enjoy or like at all. There was a guy I used to work with who was in tech, and he was very, very, very capable and good at it. And he decided he wanted to do something else. He went and got his law degree while he was working, and now he's a lawyer because that's what he wanted to do.
That's amazing. So
a very capable guy that I used to work with, and I really admired him for it because he felt like he wanted to do something different. He wasn't enjoying the technology, and so he wanted to do something different. So I think there has to be a balance between finding something that the market is looking for, a set of skills that somebody's looking for. I mean, right now, if you went and learned Microsoft Active Server Pages, nobody's going to hire you because nobody's doing that stuff anymore. So doing that would not be what I would advise you to do. But some of these other things like cloud, getting exposure to cloud, learning how that works, learning how to program. Python is a great place to start if you're interested in those kinds of things. I think understanding how databases work and those kinds of things, what a constraint is or a foreign key and all those kinds of things. There's so many great resources to start and so many great ways to learn. And there are people out there who are looking to help. I mean, the fellow you had on last week, Brodus, I mean, he is helping people level up in tech, and he's doing a great job. He's encouraging people and building people up. So I would encourage anybody who's interested in wanting to get started to go back and listen to last week's episode too, because he did a great job of talking about what he's doing and encouraging people to get involved and start learning things.
And he was a banker, and he got into tech,
That's
which is
right.
is amazing.
That was a great story.
Yeah.
He was sitting across from somebody. He said, you know, I want to do something else. And it starts with a vision to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to master it. And I'm not going to let anybody get in my way. And it's going to take time. Now, one thing that one aspect we didn't talk about mastering new technologies is it takes a lot of time.
It does.
You can't just spend 30 minutes looking at a video at YouTube and thinking that you understand something. There are things that you have to invest a lot of time. And if you're enjoying it, the time goes by in an instant, but it is a big time investment. I mean, I spent hours and hours going through labs and learning new things. It was a lot of fun because I enjoy technology, but that's the biggest commitment really you're making. Totally. I believe is a time commitment. And it is a lifelong thing. Once you get started, if you're serious about tech, you don't just master a set of skills and say, oh, I've learned this and now I can just coast. You can't.
No.
It doesn't work like that. You got to stay on top of it because stuff changes. And the thing is that things are changing a lot faster now than they were, 15, 20 years ago. Because, I mean, just to give you a simple example, I mean, Adrian is creating these courses on AWS, and he keeps having to go through and re-record things because Amazon keeps changing the UX. So
all the time.
and they keep adding features to different parts of their software. And, part of it is it's frustrating. Oh, I thought I understood everything there was to know about S3. And now Amazon added 3 new features last week, and I have to understand how those play in. Mm-hmm. But what's wonderful is Amazon is listening to their customers, and they're adding that stuff because their clients are saying, hey, we're trying to do X, Y, Z, and this doesn't work really well. Or, boy, it would really be great if you gave us an option to do this, because the way it works now, it's very difficult for us to use it. So you can tell which parts of Amazon are getting a lot of use because they have a lot of different capabilities and a lot of flexibility around them. And S3 is a great example of that. But anyway, I digress.
No. I mean, you touched on a really good point, is that, in tech, we have to constantly learn. We have to adopt the learning mindset, because if we don't, we become relics. And I experienced that actually, when was it? Probably about 6 years ago. I was working in a VMware environment in a data center. Well, I didn't work in the data center, but I had to go to the data center to fix anything, with regards to servers or whatever.
Right.
But when I had gotten laid off of that job, I was like, what do I do now? Because tech had just grown into this mammoth, and I was like, I'm not sure exactly what to do. So I decided to do as Broadus did and level up. And so that's when I went out and learned cloud and learned AWS. And the first couple of certifications that I got, and I landed that first job of mine in cloud, I swore to myself, never again will I sleep on, the new stuff that's coming out. I need to keep up to date. I even got a tattoo to remind myself.
There you go. Yeah. So, and that's not so different than what it's like in other industries. I mean, no. My mother-in-law used to be a dental hygienist, and she had to go take courses every single year when she was working to continue to refresh her skills and make her aware of new changes and things in the marketplace. So there isn't really necessarily the same formalization of that in technology, but you really need to be in charge of your own learning roadmap and to stay on top of it, to learn new things and to get exposure to new technologies, because stuff changes really fast.
All the time. So you mentioned Python. What other learnings or technologies assisted you to be better at your current job, or a job that you're looking at in future?
So historically speaking, I think learning SQL, structured query language, so that you understand how databases work and not just learning how to do a simple select, but understanding how to think in a way that would enable you to create efficient performance SQL is extremely helpful in certain areas of tech. Like, for example, if you're looking at data related fields or data science related fields, that's an important skill to have. And it's interesting that all of these things are layered on top of each other. So
totally,
SQL is not a new thing. SQL's been around for a long time, but having SQL skills still serves you well. I mean, I learned, had some professors at Baylor that taught me great things about SQL. I learned more about it there. And then when I was in my career, I interacted with customers who said, hey, I need a report that does this and this and this. And so having the ability to know how to do database views and understand how tables, relational tables work out is great. And data is so important for pretty much every single application out there. There's going to be some kind of data. And now things are transitioning over to where not only is SQL important, but there are certain use cases where NoSQL, this new technology of NoSQL, and all these NoSQL databases like Amazon has DynamoDB that are becoming so important. And you really require a different mindset and a different way of thinking to how you structure that data so that it can be performant. So that would be another thing I would think would be really helpful to learn and master in your career is data and databases and SQL and these kinds of technologies. I think the data science and Python ties into that also, and learning how to machine learning, all these kinds of things. These are things that people are very interested in now, and there are a lot of careers out there in machine learning that are important.
Yeah, it's really popular now. Really popular.
Very popular.
Yeah. Even when it comes to big data, like there's a lot of database technologies out there that are even, NoSQL related or serverless, if you will, that still use SQL, still use structured query language in order for you to query the database. And so, even taking an older technology, an older language, it still has value. I mean, if you can see value in the current and in future, then do it. That's how I see it, anyways.
That's right. Just to build on what you were saying, I mean, Amazon has a great technology called Athena that leverages data stored in S3 objects, and if that data is structured the right way, you can actually use SQL syntax to query that data and fetch information out of it. And it's amazing, even though it's not in a traditional relational database like a Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL or a Postgres, you're still using a flavor of SQL syntax to query that data. So all of these technologies build on each other, and they're great to learn, and you have to create find your own niche by learning the set of technologies that will serve you, whichever career direction you head. It's kind of like just combining what works.
So, Rob, tell me, what does the future look like for you?
So I guess looking for some opportunities. Things are starting to come together for me. I'm not ready to share any more about that now, but I think one aspect of it is this last several months of getting these AWS certifications have really taught me that I'm going to focus on two things. One of them is that I'm very interested in continuing to learn new things and new technologies, and I'm going to make that important part of my life. And another thing is that I'm going to look for opportunities whenever I have them to encourage people who are also doing this. I've enjoyed just the simple act of congratulating people who have gotten their certifications, because I've done it and I know it's not a simple thing. And it helps to have somebody who sees you along your journey and says, hey, you've done something. This is great. I'm rooting for you. Keep going.
Yeah.
And it's given me, just doing that has given me opportunities. People have reached out, a few people have reached out, not many, on LinkedIn and said, hey, what do you think I should do next? Or what is your opinion on this? Or how did you do this? And I can say, well, I can't necessarily tell you what would work for you, but I can tell you what I did. And I'm happy to share my experiences if it helps somebody. And that to me, having the opportunity to encourage somebody and say, hey, don't let anybody tell you no. Don't worry about the past. Keep heading forward. Today is the day you're going to take your next step. This is great. You can do this. Keep going. Move forward. That's a great opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, and to build on that, that's one of the reasons why I came up with Bowtie Certified, is so that I can encourage others that it's not easy being in the tech industry, but if anyone can change from one career to another, I mean, anyone can do it. So don't think that just because you're in one industry that you're not capable of getting into another, that you have absolutely no idea what you're getting into. I mean, we all start from the same place.
Everybody started not knowing about technology. Everybody has to go through and learn it. Now, it's become a lot easier than it was, for sure. There's so many resources out there for learning it that are available to you. And if you invest the time, you can do it. It's not necessarily going to be straightforward and easy all the time. There are things that are very complicated and will give you heartburn, but there's
Tell me about it. I mean, I was working on a lesson. I was telling you earlier, Rob, I was working on a lesson yesterday on IP addresses. Should be simple, right? No. Definitely not. I worked almost a whole day on it because there's so much to learn. When you get down that rabbit hole and you really start to dig into behind the scenes, what's under the hood, there's so much to learn, so much.
Right. It's like peeling an onion. You just never get to the end of it. You just keep peeling.
So Rob, I know that you're a big proponent of learning and getting that learning mindset. If you could offer any other piece of advice to others who are striving to get into either landing a better role in technology or to get into a career in technology, what would that piece of advice be?
So I think a lot of it is mental, and I think a lot of it goes down to having a positive attitude and giving yourself a goal and taking the next step to accomplish that goal. So, in other words, when I first started getting AWS certifications, I had a goal of getting the Solution Architect Professional certification, but I knew that I was not ready to sit and start from that because I hadn't earned any AWS certifications yet. So I set a goal of getting the Solution Architect Associate certification. And then I said, after I said, wow, I actually did it. This is great. I can't believe it. I actually passed it. Every time I passed one of those certifications and I saw passed on the screen, I was ecstatic.
So I know the feeling. The feeling. You're like jumping out of your chair.
So that was a milestone. And I focused on that one thing. And I thought, well, I'm going to keep a list of other things I want to learn and I want to master. But I'm going to focus on this one thing. And I'm going to focus on this next step. And so after I finished the Solution Architect Associate exam, I went for the Developer Associate, and I passed that one. And then I went for the SysOps exam, and I passed that one. And everybody said, well, this one is really difficult. It's really challenging. I said, okay, so you definitely have to work and you have to prepare. And I was all about studying as much as I could to make sure there was no question that I had mastered the material and worked as diligently as I could at it. And then once I got through that, I found the right materials to go after the Solution Architect Professional exam. And I spent the time going through and studying that and making my notes and using the practice tests and all those kinds of things that you do to get that done. And then you go on to the next thing. So I think it's having a positive mental attitude and not allowing yourself to get discouraged and say, oh, all of these terrible things happened to me. And Broda's made a great point. Mentioned something he did in one of his videos where he talked about how there is so much negativity out there about, and a lot of it's on social media, and everybody invests so much time and energy saying how this is terrible and how this is so bad. Try not to get tied up in all that kind of stuff. That's not healthy for you. Really, you can get discouraged and depressed. And the less you do that, and the more time you spend building yourself and learning new things and investing in development, the better off you're going to be. Spend less time looking at social media and more time studying and learning new things and developing. And have a goal, and don't let anybody or anything get in the way of your goal. Just keep moving forward. And every day, if you master one new topic or one new thing, it's something you didn't know before. And maybe somebody who's been doing tech would say, oh, boy, it took you so long to learn something simple. But that's okay, because they had to learn it sometime soon. And sometimes some people pick up things faster than other people. That's fine. Just move forward, make progress, find a way to learn something new. And there are people out there who can encourage you and help you, and avail yourself of all the great resources that are available online. Some of them are free and some of them cost a lot of money. Sometimes you do need to invest in this stuff. Sometimes there are people who have blazed a trail ahead of you, who you can take guidance and advice from them and learn from them. Take those chances. And the last thing is about an attitude. Learn to encourage and help other people. Instead of looking for ways to tear other people down, learn to encourage people and help people and build them up. I guess that's all I would say about that.
It's so inspiring, Rob. Thank you. I actually needed that today. I'd say like every second day I go through this thing called imposter syndrome.
We all do. Absolutely.
And
Me too.
It's a struggle. It really is. You get into something and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this, or this is just so difficult. Guess what? It is difficult for everyone else. And we all go through the same struggles. Like I said before, we all start from the same starting point. And if we can get our mindset right and get over that hump, then everything else will just become easier day by day.
And don't try to let on that you've mastered something that you haven't mastered yet. If you don't understand it or you don't know it, say, you know what? I don't understand Kubernetes or Terraform. And these are two things, actually, I don't have a lot of experience with. So I'm happy to admit that I don't have mastery of Terraform or Kubernetes yet. I understand some of the concepts and why they're valuable. But if somebody would sit me in front of a computer and say, hey, we want you to write Terraform, I'd say, well, right now, today, I can't do that. But I can tell you what, I know how to learn. So I will master this, and I won't let anything stop me, and I will figure it out. And I will show you that I can do it, and have an attitude where you're not afraid of doing this. We all, me included, deal with imposter syndrome. Boy, oh boy. I mean, you look at some of this stuff and you're like, this is Greek to me. I don't understand this at all. But man, you just got to dig in and figure it out. I mean, that's what you do. And believe me, I mean, these certifications are wonderful. They're a great start. And Amazon will test you, or Microsoft will test you on the way they would like you to think about and would like you to use the technology. But they don't always have, there's not every single use case is going to be an ideal fit for the way Amazon thinks you should use AWS. There may be a certain situation where you're going to say, well, Amazon says we should do it this way, and we should always take this route. But in this particular case, I need to go a different route. And experience will get you there. But there's always something new to learn. That's all.
Well, a lot of advice there, Rob. But I think, it boils down to taking things day by day, step by step, and just believing in yourself, and the fact that, we've all been there, and we can do it. It's just a matter of getting your mindset right and being able to just drive forward. So, Rob, what is the best way for other people to get a hold of you if they wanted to chat with you or ask you for any career advice?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I accept LinkedIn requests. I'm happy to get LinkedIn requests, and happy to connect with folks, and happy to chat. If I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to share my limited experience of what I learned and going through. Again, it's a journey. I'm learning new things every day. So if I can help you in any way, please reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to encourage you or help you in any way I can.
Awesome. And for those of you who are looking for the Slack channel, I'm actually going to put that in right now. You can also find Rob on techstudyslack.com.
That's right.
Maybe if I can spell this right, I can actually put it up. And here we go. So yeah, Tech Study Slack. Rob's on there. I'm on there. We mentioned Adrian Cantrell, who does a lot of the AWS certification prep courses. He's on there as well. Plus, there's 10,000 other people, everyday people in tech, that are extremely helpful and always looking to help others and provide others with information about careers, about technology, and just a great bunch of folk, I think.
Absolutely. It's a real Tech Study Slack is a really nice community. I'm on there frequently, and it's really nice to see that people enjoy chatting together and they encourage one another. And there's a lot of people who are looking for ways to help other people and say, hey, I've came across this great resource. If you haven't taken a look at it, this is helpful. I've seen a lot of people shared a lot of things that I have bookmarked and gone back to. They've been very helpful for me. Yeah. And it's a journey. So don't let anybody tell you you're not valuable, because you are. Mm-hmm. And don't let anybody tell you you can't, because you can. Don't get discouraged if it takes you longer to learn something, or you take an exam and you don't pass it the first time. Keep going, keep focusing, keep moving on. So
my associate pro, it took me 3 times. I did it 3 times. On the 3rd time I passed. It was so difficult, but I was like, I'm not giving up. And if a guy from fashion can do it, then I think anyone can.
Absolutely. Everybody can.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, thank you so much for letting me come on this show with you. I enjoyed chatting with you today.
Yeah, likewise.
It was a lot of fun.
I want to open the floor to anyone if they have any questions or comments as well. If you want to be a part of the show and you want to tell your story and encourage others to take certifications and tell your story about higher learning and how it's helped you in your journey, feel free to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I always accept anyone's connections, unless you're a bot. I have this thing, where somebody will connect with me and they'll have like 2 followers, and I'll be like,
yeah.
But either way, yes, please reach out. But it doesn't look like there is any questions. Broadus did come to say hello, so just wanted to say what's up, Broadus.
Hey, Broadus.
And so I wanted to take the time to thank everyone who tuned in. And yes, thank you again, Rob, for coming onto the show and really giving us a look into your journey, and thank you for all the advice, the valuable advice that you've given with regards to technology and learnings and everything in between.
Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and my desire was that I could say or share some things that would be helpful to other people on their journey. If I was able to help anybody today, that's great. I'm thrilled that people would have the opportunities to level up and to move forward in technology. It's exciting, and it can be a lot of fun. It can give you gray hairs too, but it's a lot of fun. And I used to, I mean, I used to have more hair up here, but anyway, I've enjoyed my journey, and I wouldn't be still doing it if I didn't love it. So, but thank you again, Anthony, for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Rob. And thank you so much, everyone, again, for tuning in. And we'll see you all next week on Wednesday. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, everybody.